Breaking: America just got shut out of Israel. Not diplomats, not tourists. The entire US government apparatus frozen. No meetings, no exceptions. Benjamin Netanyahu didn't just slam the door. He changed the locks. And the reason he says America has abandoned its closest ally and empowered enemies at Israel's expense. This is not a diplomatic disagreement. This is a complete rupture. The kind that reshapes alliances for decades. If you want to see how this crisis explodes minute by minute, hit that subscribe button now, because this story is accelerating and you don't want to miss what happens next. 3 days ago, Joe Biden made 2 decisions that triggered this disaster. First, he threatened to withhold military aid unless Israel accepted a ceasefire with Hamas. Then he announced a suspension of all offensive weapons transfers to Israel. Not delayed, suspended. Including precision-guided munitions, Israel says it needs to minimize civilian casualties. What happened next was absolute chaos. Tom Nides, America's ambassador to Israel, didn't learn about these decisions from the White House. He learned from an Israeli diplomatic cable marked urgent protest. His resignation letter was drafted that same evening. The State Department was blindsided. The Pentagon was blindsided. Even Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, had no advance warning about the timing. And then came Netanyahu's response. Blinken was en route to Tel Aviv when Israeli authorities revoked his landing authorization. The aircraft turned back over the Atlantic. Flight tracking systems captured everything. A Secretary of State of the world's superpower rejected in real time. Analysts are calling it unprecedented, stunning. A signal sent loud enough for every capital on earth to notice. That evening, Netanyahu appeared before cameras, surrounded by his war cabinet, 8 p.m. Jerusalem time. His statement was calculated. A nation that withholds support from allies fighting for survival should not expect partnership in return. Within hours, Israel suspended intelligence sharing agreements worth tens of billions. Mossad sources now classify American officials as unreliable partners. Senior Israeli leaders say the breach is total, irreversible. Those aren't diplomatic phrases, they're operational directives. And here's where this becomes dangerous. Israeli intelligence has prevented 23 planned terror attacks on American soil in the last decade. That pipeline just shut down. Israeli cyber firms protect critical American infrastructure, power grids, banking systems, communications networks. That protection is being withdrawn. Defense partnerships valued at $38 billion are collapsing at unprecedented speed, and families who once depended on joint counter-terrorism operations are staring at vulnerabilities that cannot be plugged. Robert Mitchell understands this better than most. Israeli intelligence uncovered a kidnapping plot targeting his son 4 years ago. He credits that cooperation with saving his family. That cooperation no longer exists. From Washington, Biden framed this as principled leadership, America standing for humanitarian values, America leading by example. But former CIA Director John Brennan calls it the most reckless foreign policy decision in a generation. Former Secretary of Defense James Mattis warns America has just lost its most critical intelligence partner in the Middle East. These are not political commentators. These are the architects who built the systems Biden just destroyed. And it gets worse. Egypt, Jordan, the UAE, partners who rely on Israeli intelligence, are quietly expressing alarm at America's reliability. In a closed meeting of Arab leaders, officials reportedly questioned whether American security commitments still hold weight. Morocco is asking the same. Regional diplomats say decades of trust building have collapsed in a single policy announcement. Washington now finds itself distrusted by Arabs and Israelis at the same time. A catastrophic diplomatic failure on multiple fronts. Markets reacted immediately. The dollar weakened against the shekel. $70 billion in bilateral trade is now under threat. American companies are being excluded from Israeli technology partnerships overnight. On social media, the hashtag America Betrays Allies is trending globally. Inside the United States, Jewish communities are asking a devastating question. Without Israeli intelligence, who protects us? Inside the White House, panic is replacing strategy. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin called the decision strategically disastrous during a National Security Council session. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was overheard warning staff, "We've created gaps we cannot fill." Internal messaging groups at the NSC now have titles like Foreign Policy Catastrophe. No one is debating whether this was wrong. They're debating how devastating the consequences will be. and then the leak. FBI assessments now circulating warn that Iranian-backed groups are already exploiting the intelligence freeze. These reports identify planned operations timed precisely to America's new vulnerabilities. Think about that. American lives at risk because of a policy sold as moral courage. Donald Trump sees the opportunity. He's positioning himself as the alliance restoration candidate. America protects its Democratic allies, or it protects no one, he says, and the polling reflects the momentum. Republicans surging into commanding leads. Democrats collapsing across key demographics. National security has become Biden's fatal weakness. The next 48 hours will determine whether America can operate without Israeli intelligence inputs. Agencies must rebuild threat assessment protocols or accept dangerous blackouts. Congress is being forced toward emergency hearings while every security system shows red warnings. And in London, officials are quietly reassessing America's place in the intelligence hierarchy. The Five Eyes Alliance, the world's most integrated intelligence network, depends on reliability. That reliability is now questioned. British officials are watching this collapse with barely concealed concern. MI6 depends on the American-Israeli intelligence triangle to monitor threats across 3 continents. That network just fractured. One senior British source said it directly: if America abandons Israel, who do they abandon next? Former MI6 chief Sir Richard Dearlove went further. America is choosing symbolism over security. For a nation that defines itself as the world's indispensable power, those words sting. Inside NATO, Germany is questioning America's commitment. Poland, dependent on American defense guarantees, is asking privately, would they walk away from us too? These questions are being raised in every Allied capital that once trusted Washington without reservation. And then there's the economic fallout. Israeli venture capital has frozen American investments immediately. $18 billion in technology partnerships being redirected to European and Asian firms. Silicon Valley, long a magnet for Israeli innovation, is hemorrhaging credibility. Medical collaborations, cancer research, pharmaceutical breakthroughs evaporating. Analysts project losses exceeding $200 billion across biotech, cybersecurity, and aerospace sectors. America's economic veins are bleeding from self-inflicted wounds. Meanwhile, inside Israel, the consequences are swift and personal. American students removed from exchange programs. Joint research facilities closed. Journalists from U.S. networks denied access to government briefings. The American embassy in Jerusalem, once a center of cooperation, is now effectively isolated. A senior Israeli diplomat said it clearly: this isn't punishment, it's clarity. Israel is showing what happens when partnerships break. The security implications extend far beyond economics. Without Israeli intelligence, America's ability to track Iranian nuclear advances disappears. Hezbollah operations in Lebanon vanish from sight. Hamas financing networks across the West slip through undetected. ISIS remnants, once monitored by Israeli cyber operations, reappear unchecked. The void cannot be filled. Not by Europe, not by regional partners. America has voluntarily blinded itself in one of the world's most volatile regions. Defense contractors are reassessing commitments. Boeing is reviewing Israel's participation in advanced aviation programs. Lockheed Martin has suspended joint development agreements worth billions. Israeli cybersecurity firms are withdrawing protection from American critical infrastructure and financial institutions. The message is unambiguous and brutal. America cannot be trusted with security partnerships. All of this impacts where it matters most: ordinary people. Israel's Iron Dome technology protects American bases throughout the Mediterranean. Its intelligence networks secure American shipping through strategic waterways. Mossad counter-terror operations in Europe have saved countless American lives. Remove those protections and America stands vulnerable. One national security analyst stated it plainly. Biden traded safety for applause. At home, the Jewish community feels the impact first. Synagogues that depended on Israeli security guidance are suddenly isolated. Schools once supported by Israeli protection specialists are re-evaluating every measure. Community leaders describe anxiety levels unseen in modern times. Immigration inquiries to Israel and Canada are spiking dramatically. The Conference of Presidents has called an emergency assembly. The sentiment among American Jews is devastatingly clear. The government has left us exposed. And as that fear grows, allies watch nervously. France questions American steadfastness within NATO. The Baltic states, perpetually wary of Russia, wonder if America would retreat under pressure as it did with Israel. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte has reportedly expressed deep concern about Washington's commitment to collective defense. America risks isolation not through withdrawal, but through incompetence. So the question becomes unavoidable. Can Joe Biden repair this? Can he reverse an expulsion unprecedented in modern alliance history, or has he condemned America to years of strategic irrelevance, cut off from intelligence, influence, and credibility? The administration insists communication channels remain open. Israeli officials insist they do not. Between those statements lies reality, an America suddenly weaker, more isolated, and more uncertain than at any point in generations. And here's the most alarming part. The crisis continues accelerating. Tomorrow's classified intelligence briefing may reveal the full extent of what America can no longer see. The threat's now invisible because the government silenced its partners. In this new landscape, ignorance isn't merely risky, it's catastrophic. This story is developing every hour. If you want minute-by-minute updates as this crisis intensifies, subscribe and activate notifications. And drop a comment below. Do you think Biden can salvage this, or is America's credibility destroyed permanently? Let me know your thoughts.